Today on the podcast, as I reflect on my week of time tracking and also a really great local connection that I made this morning, I am sharing my 4 top tips for making AI work for you. I'm Suzanne Rath and you're listening to Endures for your daily dose of endurance leadership and life lessons. Now, my opening sentence of this podcast might surprise you because, as many of you will know, I speak at conferences and I coach and I have very strong opinions on us needing to nurture the human performance side to leverage off AI, and also my thoughts that, AI alone is not going to solve our productivity crisis. In fact, there are a number of pieces of research that show that teams using AI tools have actually taken about 25% more time to do the task involved, or that they are just producing more work slop, and actually it's increasing our risk of burnout. So there is certainly 2 sides to every story. But what this conversation really opened up for me, and I will put this on my LinkedIn and tag Delaney, she's a wonderful local business owner here in Cairns. Sometimes it's surprising to hear that somebody just lives 5 minutes down the road from you, because we spend all this time in this online connection and we assume that these consultants are somewhere else. And I know there's a bit of a thing in Cairns where I live where people assume that the best consultants are in the big cities. And when we find somebody who is working away from home, doing all this amazing work, who lives quite close to us, it can be excellent and really refreshing and eye-opening. And it emphasized to me the point of human connection, which is what I think that AI, when it's used well to do monotonous tasks, to automate stupid things, can really help us to do. So as a result of my time tracker I've been doing this week, I'm going to continue it for the rest of the month. I'm identifying lots of little points of friction within my business, well, my 2 businesses, so my clinical business and my speaking and coaching business, and things that I would like to achieve, but I haven't had the second to set them up, or to create the frameworks, or to prioritize them, or whatever the case might be. And so those now go into my workflow of things that I can improve without completely running myself ragged to do so. And so my 4 tips that I want to share with you today, we'll dive in. So the first tip is don't lose track of your vision and keep coming back to your plan every time. So my best working days are when I work off a plan rather than going into my email inbox. I would tell you that all of our best working days are that. We have the plan from the day before. We go in, we execute the plan. We use our most focused blocks of work time to work on the things that really require our energy, etc., etc. But coming back to the plan is really important with AI, because it is so easy to get distracted by these things that we could do. And so from my time tracking, I know there's all these things I could do, but what is the thing that I need to work on most right now in my clinical business, in my coaching business, and in my life? And what chapter am I in? So I've just exited a chapter of training really hard for this big run. So that's opened up a little bit more space, although I do have another race next weekend. That will be not really racing. But, what is actually the most important thing for us to do right now? I know in my clinical business, before I get to some of the little tiny frameworks that I want to fix, I'm looking at things like practice management overhauls, or website changes to make it more AI readable, like various things that I need to sit down and really prioritize instead of getting caught up on this AI noise. So we don't need to constantly be creating more output. We need to be doing the things that align with where we want to go. Now, the second thing, and it kind of feeds into this, is this idea of stop chasing information and actually start chasing outcomes. And this is where, if we as leaders, owners, if our teams connect themselves to that bigger vision, every decision we make about the use of AI or anything that we do in the workplace needs to align with the priorities, the vision, the mission, etc. So it can get really tempting with AI, and I've done this, to prompt it on repeat right? To go for this bright, shiny object thing. So I can easily sit there and go, which of my 9 catalysts do you think I should cover in my quarterly reset? And how would you respond to this feedback? And what's your ideas on this? And how should I write this email? And what's a good social media post for this? And then to edit it and to twiddle around doing all these micro tasks, but not to actually A, use the things, or B, connect them to an actual outcome that really matters then. So constantly asking yourself, what am I trying to build and why? I can tell you from the conversation we had this morning, I came up with an outcome and a potential process that I didn't even know that I needed, but it connects to one of my major goals for the year. So it's not another AI noise, and there is so much of that right now. And honestly, I am really mindful of the trainings I go to, of the meetings that I have around AI, because it is so easy to get overwhelmed. I have been at things, I've read articles where people are dumping their list of 20 AI things that we need, and you need this video editor, and you need this, and you need that. It is exhausting, and it's taking us away from what we need to do right now for where we want to go. Not every one of us needs every single latest AI tech thing, right? There is money in selling those things, and there are people who love to research and love to be on top of the latest tech. That is not me. I need to do the tools and use the tools that do the job that I need right now, and think about the future and what those jobs are going to be, and certainly plan strategically for the future, but not get distracted or overwhelmed by every bright, shiny object. And that brings me into my third tip, which is not to outsource your edge. So a number of months ago, I sat in a meeting about AI where basically they talked about outsourcing everything. Scraping emails. So if you have, say, a thought leader who you really respect, scraping their emails for structure and examples and tips and advice, and then repurposing them into your own. And that really does not sit well with me, because that is not what thought leadership is. And if I provide an experience, whether it's a keynote, whether it's consultancy, whether it's a workshop, whether it's facilitation, whether it's a coaching one-on-one experience with people, I don't want it to come from somebody else's book or IP. I want it to come from my lived experience, from my translations, from my strategies, from my science, from my tools. Now, of course, I might reflect on somebody else's learning, somebody else's teachings, maybe put my own spin on it. We don't always need to be reinventing the wheel. I mean, there's a number of tools that I use, such as I'm an advanced disc practitioner, that I don't really need to reinvent the wheel on that. But you know, we need to be really careful about if we're outsourcing our edge. So a conversation that we had today was around DMs. I don't want to be sending my LinkedIn connections a series of 4 or 5 automated DMs. I'm just not into it. It's not real connection to me. And honestly, even the thought of it just fills me with dread. And so the fourth thing is how we use AI to actually support our rhythm and not replace it. And again, this comes into like, how much do we automate? How much do we schedule? I was on another really excellent webinar this morning with Leanne Hughes, and she said something that really validated some of my thinking around scheduling, where she will just write her LinkedIn posts and her Substacks and so ever that day, or in real time, or that week. And so, you know, she doesn't want to look at something 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks down the track and think, oh, what did I write then? And you know what? I 100% agree. Generally, my LinkedIn, I write it in real time. My podcast, I do it on the day. I, collate things, maybe inspirational things that I've liked that week or whatever, or obviously today is based on that amazing conversation and coffee catch up, but I want to be putting something out there that's how I think now, because our thinking evolves as humans. And as speakers, as coaches, as consultants, as thought leaders, we need to be interpreting the now for other people. Like the now in AI is everybody's moving to Claude. 6 months ago, I had no interest in moving to Claude. Today, I've set up a Claude account and I've started to import some little bits and pieces because finally it aligns with some of the tasks that I want to give it. So my sort of end message here for you really is that AI and having a million AI tools is not actually your advantage. You are your advantage. So your clarity on where you're going, your conviction, your execution, and how you use it as part of your rhythm, that is your advantage. That is your human performance edge. Thank you for joining me, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow for more from Endures.